Hello and welcome to a pandemic update video for Thursday, September 22nd, 2022. We haven't done a good old-fashioned pandemic update in a while, and I think one is needed. There are some things in the data that I would like to point out in overall things, whether it be the CDC, cases, or hospitalizations. It's too much to do an individual, so I figured we'd just do a broad video and cover it all. Let's start off with the old transmission map. And 75.14% of the cases are high transmission. Substantial transmission is 15.8% of the cases. Moderate transmission is 6.08. Low is 2.98% of the cases. So it's a little more mixed up since the last time we checked this out. But overall, high and substantial transmission pretty much is the ruling of the roost. Take a look at the varying proportions. BA.5 represents 84.8% of the cases. The 4.6 variant is 10.3% of the cases. BA.4 is 1.8%. BF.7 is 1.7%. And the BA.2.75 is 1.3%. So generally right now, we're watching this BF7 variant, and that is starting to gain ground. It just popped up here recently. Well, they just added a color code for it recently, and it is starting to gain ground, so we'll see what happens with that variant. Taking a look at the national picture here for cases today, and you'll see so far today there are 92,947 new cases added. Deaths today, I want to caution on this. There's some lag reports that have been added to this, so it's saying 720 deaths today. Keep in mind, California unloaded a large amount of deaths today because they haven't updated since last Friday. Test, similar deal, but this is actually a good thing to see. 1.1 million tests today. That's the most tests we've seen in a single reporting day in a very long time. You gotta wonder if some of that comes from the fact that the at-home test is not free anymore. So maybe people are slowly starting to go back to the PCR pharmacy test. We'll see. But that's good to see. That's the most one day in a while. But remember, yet again, some weekly reports did occur today. Hospitalizations. Nationally, hospitalizations are down, and they're at 29,782 according to this count. ICU 3,701. That's actually up by 20. But if we come over here to the HHS dashboard, you'll see it's still over 30,000. There's 30,234 people in the hospital. And I think we're finally bottoming out. I don't think it's going to drop much more. I think we're going to reverse pretty soon. And one of the reasons why I think that's going to happen is, if we come down here and take a look at hospitalization data, the North is starting to rise. Like the northeastern states, there's now 461 people in the hospital in Connecticut. That's up 100 from last week at this time. We come up here to New York State. Did they add New York State? Yes, they did. There's now 2,208 people in the hospital in New York State. And if we come here and take a look at the chart, I'll zoom this in to make it easier to see. As you can see, we've been in this pattern. New York State has had a pattern where each week it goes up on Tuesday or Wednesday. And then look what happens. It falls throughout the week, and each week's lower and lower. That pattern has broke this week. Instead of dropping, it's been rising every day this week. So there's now 2,208 people in the hospital in New York State, which indicates hospitalizations are now starting to rise in New York State. Let's take a look at the hospital admissions in New York State. Look at this. Admissions overall are higher than last week. So I think we're turning the corner up here in the northern states. Will it be enough to get the national hospitalizations to go back up? Not so certain on that just yet, but somewhere between now and, say, Halloween, it is going to start going up again. I don't think it's going to drop much anymore. It may drop a little more because of the southern states and California. But I think eventually the North is going to overcome that, and unfortunately the national number is going to rise yet again. All right, let's take a look at some states' case data. California, 29,774 new cases. But mind you, this is a multi-day total, and look how many deaths they added. 292 deaths. Florida, I believe this is a one-day total. Let's click on this. Florida's reporting 70 deaths today. Let's see. Yes, that is a one-day total for deaths. So Florida has been reporting quite a few deaths lately. September 19th, 167, 5 on the 20th, 53 on the 21st, and then 70 today. Florida hospitalizations really are still dropping somewhat, but you know what? It looks like they may be starting to bottom out as well. So we'll see what happens there. I'm not really expecting anything major out of Florida in terms of a rise until later in October, when the BF7 or the BA 2.75 variant take over. All right. New York State, 5,952 new cases. Illinois, 5,200 new cases. Ohio, this is a weekly number. Ohio reports 14,536 new cases. Hospitalizations in Ohio are down today. That's probably going to start to turn the corner because cases in Ohio, though it says dropping here, I do think they're going to start to rise soon because neighboring Pennsylvania and other places are starting to rise around them. So it only makes sense that Ohio would start rising soon. New Jersey, 2,943 new cases. They're actually up 11.3% on the week. Massachusetts, this is a weekly report. They come in on Thursdays. Massachusetts, 10,267 new cases. That's up 14% over last week. Let's take a look at Massachusetts death data. 58 deaths. That's up 12.2%. So the deaths are rising there. And how about hospitalizations? Yeah, Massachusetts hospitalizations are up by 58. And let's actually dive a little deeper into that, shall we? And you'll see here that as of this week, or really the end of last week, hospitalizations are rising in Massachusetts. So yet again, another northern state that's on the verge of a rise. Here we go with Minnesota. Minnesota, 6,678 cases. That's up 5.2%. And if we come down here to Vermont, Vermont's up 3%. That's another northern state. Delaware, 252 cases. That's up 9.5%. Rhode Island, 1,714 cases. I believe that's a multi-day total. They're up 19%. New Hampshire, 260 new cases. They're up 20%. Nebraska, 196 cases. They're up 13.3%. And let's go over to Walgreens data now, shall we? Take a look at Walgreens here. You can see here, New York, Maine, New Hampshire, West Virginia, Maryland, New Mexico, Utah, and Colorado, all with rising cases. The other states are dropping significantly to somewhat dropping, and we'll have to see how long that lasts because, yet again, like I said, BF 0.7 and 2.75 have just entered the picture, so give it a few more weeks for them to take over more, and I think we'll start seeing cases because, remember, both of those subvariants do evade the BA.5 immunity. So if you had the BA.5 variant in your infection, which most people aren't going to know which variant they were infected with, or subvariant I should say, good chance that you are going to possibly get infected again if you're not being cautious because BF.7 and 2.75 just evade right through that immunity. And it doesn't matter if you even had the vaccine or the booster. You can still get infected. While you're likely to have a less severe case, unless you've been reinfected, unless you've already had a case already, that's a different story. But if you're vaccinated and boosted, you can still test positive, just the chances of you having a severe case are lower. It can still happen, but better chance that it's going to be a less severe case, thankfully. But that's not always the case with everyone, especially the immune compromised. Alrighty, that's all I really have for this video. I'd like to thank everyone for watching. Remember to continue to wear a mask. And monkeypox does still exist. So you're going to want to wear gloves, especially to get gas. I primarily wear gloves at this point to wear gas. It's very important to me because, you know, those gas pumps aren't cleaned. Quite frankly, I did it before coronavirus at times. I would, even before coronavirus and monkeypox, there were times where if I saw a gas pump that was just really dirty and just bothering to me, what's the harm in putting gloves on to prevent myself from getting infected with something? Alrighty, stay safe everyone, continue to mask up, and hit like and subscribe down below. Thank you, and have a great night.